Please be seated. As promised, there is no sermon, but there will be a very short, brief teaching. So before we get to the meaning of the sermon itself, I do want to give a brief overview of the architecture of our worship space. So as you enter in through this space, through the narthex, the congregation sits in the pews located in what's called the nave. And the nave is where we get the same root meaning for the word navy. And when you think about navy, usually what comes to mind are boats and ships. And so if you look up at the ceiling, you'll notice that the ceiling looks like the bottom of a ship. And so when we come into God's house, what we are powerfully reminded of is that God's ship, God's church, is turned upside down. And we actually sail in a completely different direction from the rest of the world. The other section that you'll notice is the chancel area, where our choir is seated right now. So the chancel area is an opportunity for the choir to be seen, even though they don't like that at all times, and to be heard, and they do a fantastic job of that. And then beyond the chancel area, you'll see the altar rail and the altar. Everything surrounding the altar is known as the sanctuary. I know sometimes we refer to all of this space as the sanctuary, but technically speaking, the sanctuary is the portion located behind the altar rail. And then you'll notice kind of sticking out here in the chancel area, we have the pulpit, and that's where the sermon is delivered. And we have the lectern, and that's where the lessons from Holy Scripture are read. And then we have our baptismal font here. In some churches, the baptismal font is located in the very back of the church. And when you enter into the church, symbolically, this reminds us that we enter into the family of God through the waters of baptism. And in many churches, the lid from the font is removed, and there has been water that's poured into it. It's been blessed, so it's holy water. And folks are encouraged to take their fingers, dip it into the water, and to make the sign of the cross, reminding them of their baptismal covenant, the promises that they made at their baptism. Now, my understanding is our baptismal font actually used to live in the back of the church many, many years ago, but we've moved it since up front here, sort of elevated, because logistically speaking, when you have baptisms, the congregation would stand, turn around, and look in the back, and if you had someone really tall in front of you, it'd be tough to see the action, what's going on in the sacrament of baptism. So now it's prominently displaced here so everyone in the parish can see. Back to the sermon. So the sermon is designed to really reflect upon the lessons that had been read, assigned for that particular day. And sometimes maybe the sermon hits the spot. Maybe sometimes it does not. But here's what I would encourage you to do. Do not check out. Use all of the senses God has blessed you with to continue to worship, whether you're resonating with the sermon or not. And so we can use the gift of sight by looking around at our beautiful stained glass windows. Those windows in and of themselves are sermons. We can use the gift of sound to hear our wonderful choir lead us in worship every Sunday, our organist and our pianist. We are so blessed here at St. James. We can use the gifts of touch and taste when we make our way forward to receive the sacraments of bread and wine, to feel the bread being placed in our hands and to taste the wine. And then finally, the sense of smell. Every great once in a while, we will use incense. And when we smell that smoke, that incense, and we see it rising up into the air, we are reminded of our prayers ascending into heaven. Now, when the sermon is over, we